When the nurse learns why the rain was beating so viciously, she breaks down in tears as a lion enters the hospital. Thunder roared overhead, rattling the very windows of St. John's Memorial Hospital in Chicago. The fluorescent lights inside the building's foundations briefly flickered, resulting in the night staff's collective breath intake. Anna Caldwell, a super, an experienced nurse with gentle eyes and a straightforward manner, looked up from her paperwork to observe the nurses and station. In her 15 years at St. John's, she had witnessed her share of stormy nights. But this one felt different for some reason. The hospital's resident veterinarian, Dr. Richard Mayfield, came to the station with a frown on his face. He said, "We're having a storm concentration." Staff workers hurried to protect their wards, and tourists scurried for cover as soon as patients shouted. But Anna stayed put, her eyes meeting the lion's perceptive ones. There was something special about this animal that didn't fit. It wasn't acting like a crazed animal. Rather, it appeared intentional, as mayhem raged all around them. And Anna saw something held tenderly in the lion's strong teeth. A tiny bundle wrapped in what appeared like a frayed blanket. Yet as it took a hesitant step forward, at that same moment, the lion's gaze never left Anna's. Anna took a decision that would permanently alter her life. She left the nurse's station behind, disregarding the Anna was frantically alerting her coworkers. "What are you doing?" Dr. Mayfield shouted, his face going white with terror, but Anna was out of it. She moved gently toward the lion, her hands up in a non-threatening attitude, and she was inaudible. "It's okay, she couldn't say, 'I'm here to help the lion,' but it was unclear if she was reassuring the lion or herself. Looked at her for a while before striking his chest, which was heaving with effort, and then to Anna's astonishment, it lowered the bundle gently to the FL floor and trembled as it pushed it in her direction. As Anna peeled down the damp fabric, her hands went for the blanket. She gasped when she discovered a critter she had never seen before curled inside. Its eyes were scarcely open, and its body was covered in a mixture of fur and scales, making it no bigger than a house cat. Anna exhaled. "Oh my God, you're in a startling shade of amber." The lion gave a gentle WI as though in reaction, and then, as if its work was over, it fell to the completely exhausted when animal control officers and security personnel rushed into. In the lobby, Anna held the odd creature against her bosom and looked directly at Dr. Mayfield, who had carefully stood still while sitting near her, in two serene courtrooms they had discovered within the neighborhood of Paris. She remarked just above a whisper as she walked up to Richard, who remarked just above a whisper as she walked up to Richard. She remarked just above a whisper as she walked up to Richard in the sight. "I can tell that this was just the start of a night that will question all they believe to be true about the natural world and their role in it." Dr. Richard Mayfield had observed nothing could have prepared him for the sight, even having seen his share of strange cases throughout his time as a veterinarian. In front of him, in a little examination room that was quickly transformed into a makeshift park examination, was the inspector who had been assigned to Philip's master workshop. "What do you think about Animal Care Unit Anna Caldwell holding the most bizarre thing he had ever seen?" Richard Anna questioned in a quiet voice that was a mix of wonder and worry for Mayfield. He leaned down to examine the creature more closely, adjusting his spectacles. It was unlike anything he had ever seen in his vast knowledge of animal species, with scales and fur covering its torso and limbs that appeared translucent. The head was somewhat feline, but had reptile traits that resisted classification as belonging to a separate animal. He acknowledged running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "But I'm not totally sure what that means. Hybrid of some kind, although I couldn't say that this surpasses any known species or even hypothetical genetic combinations." As if the creature sensed that it was being discussed and released. Despite its strange appearance, a gentle chirp nuzzles closer to Anna's warmth. There was an indisputable charm to it. Anna questioned, looking toward the hallway entrance. "What about the lion?" Animal control officers were working to secure the enormous cat, and they could hear the commotion beyond. Mayfield shook his head in awe, which is a whole other enigma. Its behavior was, to be honest, it was unique because lions don't simply enter hospitals with infants, and they definitely don't give them to people. Anna nodded, her brow furrowed in contemplation, as though it understood. Required assistance as if it were clever, but before Mayfield could react, Carl Noak's door exploded open. The chief of security at the hospital rushed, his face flushed from tension and effort. What the devil is happening? His eyes widened when he saw the creature in Anna's arms and asked, "What is that thing? We're not sure about?" Anna calmly responded, while her protective hold on the creature tightened. "Noke, it needs our help." Ran a hand over his balding head, clearly having trouble comprehending what was happening. "Is well above our pay grade, and people, we must call the authorities and bring in some specialists. Carl, we are the experts, at least in regards to animal care, and at the moment this..." Mayfield inserted a note of steel into his voice. Noke looked like a child who needs medical care more than government scientists prodding it. He tried to argue, but he was paused by the resolve on Anna's and Mayfield's faces. He complained, "But this remains confidential for the time being. We don't need AED med circus to add to everything else." As if, on cue, a flurry of activity broke out in the corridor, with reporters shouting questions and cameras clicking. Noke murmured, "Closed door spoke too soon," and hurried out to handle the developing situation. Left alone again, Anna and Mayfield looked at each other anxiously. The creature Anna was holding twitched and gave a little moan. "We must take a closer look." Mayfield stated that his professional instincts are taking over and that he will try to determine what it requires in terms of Anna. Nodded tenderly and set the animal down on the examining table. While she doing so, a tiny metallic object dropped from the blanket's folds that clattered to the ground. Mayfield leaned down to pick it up, his eyes widening as he looked at the unusual item, something he had never seen before. A sophisticated technological device that appeared much too sophisticated to be a straightforward tracking method. Looking over his back, Anna questioned, "What's that chip or identification tag?" Mayfield turned the gadget over in his hands and said, "I'm not sure, but I think it might be the secret to solving this puzzle." While they observed the odd creature on the table, the weight of the moment they were on the brink of collapse was felt by both Mayfield and the even stranger item in his grasp, a groundbreaking finding that has the potential to alter their understanding of the natural world and life in general. The tour was made in the hospital and barely past 4. The two men with the ability to navigate this world had made a new friend, and a lion with perceptive eyes waited somewhere in the hospital, perhaps aware that its role in this drama was far from ended. The storm outside did not appear to be letting up as the night went on, and within, Standom Caldwell was creating a new type of temper at Johns Memorial Hospital. And Dr. Richard Mayfield put in a lot of effort in the temporary examination room. Their brains racing to stay on top of every minute appeared to bring the thing they had captured to life in the cascade of revelations. Called Rex because, for want of a better term, its vital signals were biological, were steady but completely different in the ways that its body temperature changed. Contrary to what is typically understood about the physiology of mammals or reptiles, blood samples showed a cellular structure. Unlike anything seen in medical literature, Twee seems to have taken the fundamental components of life and rearranged them into something quite different, Mayfield thought, as he examined a sample of Rex's blood under a microscope. After softly petting Rex's odd fur-scale hybrid coat, Anna looked up, frowning. But how is it possible, and why would someone do that in the past? Before Mayfield could react, there was a gentle rap on the door, and Carl Noke came in. "Confront Grim T," he stated without preamble, "that the media is going to crazy. Someone posted a video of the lion entering the hospital online, and Anna and Mayfield can see it everywhere." They exchanged anxious looks. If news spread about Rex, it would have devastating repercussions. He kept dropping his voice, saying, "We've been getting some strange visitors, posing extremely detailed inquiries regarding any odd animals that may have been brought in tonight. They are not being pressed," and Anna felt a shiver down her spine as she considered the enigmatic local authority. What should they deal with the gadget they discovered on a neighboring tray, still unopened? The lion Noak responded, and they appeared to know what they wanted, despite her worry that she already knew the answer. Regarding that, he motioned at Rex, who had rolled into a ball. Mayfield's brows narrowed, as if unaware of the mounting tension in the room. "We can't let them take Rex," he said. Stated clearly that this species, no matter where it came from, ought to be protected and cared for rather than treated. Anna nodded in accord, as if in a lab experiment, But Noak glanced. "I can appreciate your skepticism, but this is more than us. We're only for heaven's sake, the hospital is not prepared to handle anything that comes up." Seems as though the enigmatic gadget on the tray abruptly responded to Noak's remarks. Sprang to life, a holographic image appeared on its surface, and a gentle blue light display appeared over it, and the three people gazed in awe. Quiet as the text and pictures raced by too quickly to read, but left an unanswered sense of intricate genetic codes and cutting-edge scientific pictures. How my God Mayfield breathed while bending in for rest. Upon closer inspection, "This is amazing. It's like seeing the blueprint for Anna's heart raced as she thought about existence itself. We must keep this quiet, no Carl, at least until we fully comprehend what we're coping with. The possibility that the wrong people would obtain," this Noak nodded. A harsh determination replaced the earlier skepticism. "Okay, I'll do what I can to keep those guests away, but you two must quickly resolve this. I'm not sure how long I can keep them away." Anna and Mayfield exchanged glances as Noak departed to resume his security responsibilities. They were in uncharted territory, on the verge of a discovery, and felt a mixture of excitement and fear that would alter the path of human knowledge. But along with the thrill came an increasing awareness of the danger for whoever had produced Rex, and whomever had dispatched that lion as a last-ditch envoy would be stopped. As though realizing the seriousness of the situation, they would stop at nothing to recover their creation. Awakened, chirping softly, almost like an inquiry, and Anna gently caressed its head in wonder at the warmth of life beneath her fingers. She whispered, "Don't worry, little one. We'll figure this out. Protect you?" But as she looked into Mayfield's anxious eyes, she couldn't help feeling, was that a promise she could actually fulfill in a night filled with impossibilities? As the holographic display kept flickering with its enticing hints of cutting-edge genetic technology, Anna noticed her thoughts straying to 30 years ago. She attempted to repress a memory of her brother. Dr. James Cowell had disappeared without a trace while traveling to a distant region of South America to do research on endangered species. According to the official investigation, James most certainly suffered a terrible accident in the harsh jungle, but Anna had always had the suspicion that there was more to the tale. James had been shrewd, cautious, and having a strong love for his work in conservation genetics, it seemed unlikely that he would just vanish. Now unthinkable to her as she observed Dr. Mayfield poring over the enigmatic data coming from the gadget. A crazy idea started to cross her mind. "Richard, there must be a connection." Her voice was hardly audible above a whisper. "I need to share with you anything that could be related to all of this." Looking up from the holographic display, Mayfield's brow was furrowed in wonder. "What is it, Anna?" Taking a deep breath. As she spoke, Anna related the tale of her brother's disappearance. He could see Mayfield's thoughts racing, his gaze flitting between the mysterious device and her cheat Rex. After she was done, he continued softly, "Your brother. I'm working on genetic preservation of endangered species." "Right," Anna nodded. "He thought that by comprehending and protecting the genetic variety of Bozique, we might be able to prevent the extinction of endangered animals, but he was always quite moral about it. He would, perhaps not on purpose, but I would never have approved of making something like Rex Mayfield's expression. What if someone with less honorable motives adopted his research? The implications would be significant. Could the atmosphere between them have contributed in any way to James's conception of Rex? And before they could talk about it, what did that signify for her brother's future? Rex then screamed in a high-pitched voice, and the creature's body shook. Its fur scales started to shimmer with an unearthly light and glowed dimly. Anna gasped and hurried to Rex's side, where Mayfield was already. His hands are unsurely hovering over the bright creature, whose body temperature is crazily fluctuating. "I'm not sure." Before their very eyes, Rex's body started to change, the fur, almost as if he trailed off, his eyes widening in wonder. In a matter of seconds, the creature's scales appeared to ripple and change, taking on new textures and patterns, from its former chimera-like appearance to something that remarkably resembled an amazing lion cub. Although Mayfield breathed some sort of adaptive camouflage, I had never seen anything like it genetically. Anna gazed in awe at what appeared to be an ordinary lion cub in front of her, but upon closer inspection, she saw Rex's unchanging eyes served as a shocking reminder to Amber that this was no typical animal. The implications were stunting a species that could change its genetic makeup at will. The possible uses and risks were unimaginable, as though brought forth by Rex's metamorphosis, the holographic recreation. The mystery device's display abruptly changed, replacing the genetic data stream with a map that showed a James was found in a place deep in the South American jungle, which Anna recognized with a start. She continued, her voice trembling. "What does this mean, Richard?" Mayfield seemed excited and nervous at the same time, which suggests, my love, that your brother's disappearance might not have been an accident after all, which suggests that the weight of that forest may hold the answers we seek. Of the moment hung over them like a thick blanket. They were no longer merely coping with an enigmatic being and cutting-edge technology. They were on the verge of making a discovery that may tear apart Anna's entire. Rex nuzzled the pass and might change the course of genetic research in the future. Appearing for the world like a typical lion cub against Anna's hand, she silently vowed to do whatever it needed, would safeguard Rex and make sure that she would find the truth about her brother's abduction. Whatever force created it would not end up in the wrong hands. She had no idea that forces were already at work that would put her pledge to the ultimate test during the early hours of the morning at St. Typically. John's Memorial Hospital was silent, interrupted only by the gentle beeping of machines and the quiet chatter of the night crew. Yet there was a hint of anxiety this morning. Like an electric current, it throbbed through the hallways as Anna Coldwell paced the little examination room, her thoughts racing. She was fatigued from the night's events. But aside from her doctor, sleep was the last thing on her mind. With Rex still in its holographic display, Richard Mayfield wrote notes while muttering to himself. On a makeshift bed, the lion cub form slept fitfully, periodically whimpering little sounds that pulled at Anna's. She wondered what nightmares may haunt a creature created with such advanced technology. A gentle tap at Carl Noak's face was lined with exhaustion and concern when the door jarred them both out of their reverie. He stated that a bunch of men in suits had just arrived and were flashing some sort of government, but there was no preamble. Credentials requesting to view the peculiar animal that Anna and May Brottenfeld looked at each other with horror, knowing that this moment would arrive, yet facing what credentials? Credentials, Mayfield asked. His voice was a completely different story. Nope shook his head in a quiet, tight tone. They may not appear official, but they don't seem like any government officials I've ever seen, and something feels strange. Anna's? Her thoughts were racing over the enigmatic guests, the cutting-edge equipment, the link to her brother's abduction, and everything else. Indicated that we cannot allow them to seize Rex, since it goes well beyond the scope of regular law enforcement. Mayfield nodded in agreement as she stated firmly, "Whatever's going on, I have a feeling those men aren't here to help, since a brilliant shape-shifting creature cannot be concealed in a hospital closet as though in the holographic projection." Apraxion abruptly altered the South American jungle map in response to their predicament. Anna gasped when she saw what appeared to be comprehensive schematics of St. John's Memorial Hospital in place of the blueprints, pointing to a section of the plan that shows a system of former maintenance tunnels that run beneath the facility, closed off during renovations years ago, but Mayfield concluded his eyes that they might still be reachable. Noak, who was beaming with comprehension, was doubtful. "You want to hide in the tunnels? That's crazy. We'd be stuck." Anna stated that she was not hiding down there and that she was making plans to get out of the tunnels. "If we can discover a way out, it must go somewhere." The security chief was still unsure, but Mayfield was already out of options. "Our best course of action, Carl, is to gather their limited resources, because we can't battle anybody." Noak groaned deeply at that point. "These people are, and we can't let them get their hands on Rex or this technology. I'll try my best to slow them down and give you a head start, but Noak departed to run interference, so you'll need to go quickly." Anna carefully picked up the sleeping Rex. The creature blinked open its amber eyes and looked at her strangely. "Hey, it's all right," she said, although it's unclear if she was comforting Rex or Findle, or both. But it clearly was happy to hear she was alive, and that made her happy that she was comforted. She was unable to say, "We're going on a little adventure," Mayfield concluded. As he prepared the mysterious apparatus and packed a backpack with provisions, he asked, his voice a mix of fear and excitement. Anna inhaled deeply as she considered her options. With one final response, she said, "Brother, I'm ready for the mysteries that lie ahead and the impossible creature in my arms." Examined the space that had been the epicenter of so much curiosity and exploration before disappearing into the dimly lighted passage. A labyrinth of forgotten tunnels lied ahead along the corridor. The truth about James Caldwell's disappearance and the mysteries surrounding Rex's origins. As they approached the secret entrance to the maintenance tunnels, Anna couldn't get rid of the sensation that they were entering something, narrative that was much bigger than themselves and had started years ago, possibly even before her brother's tragic death. They were now in the center of an expedition that was coming to a head. St. John's Memorial Hospital's maintenance tunnels were a labyrinth of concrete, and the air was thick with Anna Mayfield and their peculiar companion picked their noses in the musty stench of disuse. Method cautiously through the shadows, led solely by the faint glow of their cell phones and the sporadic emergency bulb that, despite years of neglect, was still in the shape of a lion cub, softly padded next to them. Its amber eyes seemed to glow in the darkness every turn. It's amazing how frequently the creature would pause and twitch its ears as though it were hearing sounds that were beyond human awareness, Mayfield muttered as they made their way through a very tight space. Even in this, Rex's senses appear to be significantly more developed than those of a typical lion cub. It's as though, Anna nodded, her mind racing. It's always changing, not just in appearance, but in capability. Do you believe it comprehends the ramifications and the reason we're down here before Mayfield can react? They heard a muffled sound of voices and footsteps in the distance. However, it's obvious that they're in the tunnels. Anna's heart rate spiked as she exhaled. How did Mayfield's expression was grim in the faint light, and I suppose that's why they found us so soon. As if realizing the urgency, mysterious guests possess resources beyond our wildest expectations, enabling us to proceed more quickly. Despite their circumstances, Rex chirped softly and rushed forward, stopping at an intersection to gaze back at them with anticipation. I believe it wants us to follow Anna's words, which expressed awe in her. Boys, despite their situation, they followed Rex's lead and wound deeper since they had no other choice. The noises of pursuit faded as they entered the maze of tunnels, but the tension in the air persisted until what seemed like hours, but it was really just minutes, when they entered a huge room filled with antiquated machinery, loomed in the darkness, fallen into ruin. But what attracted their attention was what was lying in the middle of the room. A perfect circle of odd metallic pillars stood in the center of the scene. Every pillar had a circle engraved with elaborate patterns that appeared to move and alter in the low light, defying the light impacted. He stood beside one of the pillars. Anna muttered, "What is this place?" As her eyes tried to focus on them, Mayfield warily approached one of the pillars. "It's like some sort of synchronicity," Mayfield warily approached one of the pillars. "I don't know if it overrides his anxiety, but these markings seem insignificant. They nearly resemble the DNA sequences Anna completed, which is unlike anything I've ever seen." Her thoughts returned to the holographic screens they had already seen, but Rex was too complicated. Dacia pressed close to her husband as she drew his other breath away. It reached one of the larger tubes that was cabled to the circle's center, its little body dwarfed by the tall pillars, and as it did, a gentle murmur started to fill the air, becoming more intense as Anna looked at Mayfield. Cato said, gesturing to the enigmatic gadget they had brought over, which was blazing with the same ethereal light as the Damen fly on Randolph's arms. Before either of them could respond more, Rex started to feel the pillars pulse in time with the humming noise. Transform again, but the shift was far more pronounced this time. In a dizzying display of color and motion, the creature's body appeared to melt into pure light, spinning and regenerating. As the light dimmed, Rex appeared in front of them in a shape that was impossible to describe. Half lion, part bird, part something else. Completely foreign, with amber eyes that appeared to alternate between avian and feline characteristics, looked at them with a clearly sentient intelligence. And then, to the Rex's complete surprise, it said, "Thank you for your protection." Lovely fusion of human words and animal sounds, but I'm afraid that our adventure together is only getting started. Anna and Mayfield stood frozen, their brains straining to comprehend what they were seeing at that very time. understood that the Rex's origins mystery was far more intricate and remarkable than they could have never thought possible. As the room was filled with the pillar's crescendo hum, Anna had the clear impression that they were at the cusp of something significant in the throbbing light. Somewhere deep in the south, a revelation that would rock the fundamental foundations of human knowledge. The chamber beneath St. John's Memorial Hospital hummed, and the American rainforest held the secret to unlocking everything. Anna and Dr. Mayfield stood in awe as the air was charged with the promise of revelations. Focused on the remarkable creature in front of them, Rex changed into a beast, more than they could have ever imagined. "Anna, what are you?" Rex's body shimmered a little as she asks, her voice barely audible above a whisper. "I am the outcome of a project object that transcends time and space and is having difficulty maintaining its current shape. Its response was a bridge between what was and what was, a symphony of otherworldly tones. Mayfield's scientific mind is racing to keep up with what is and what might be. The implications were advanced. Are you claiming that you're not from Earth? That could have been..." Though Rex didn't say, "I am of Earth." Laughter echoed through the air. "My designers wanted to blend the genetic heritage of Earth's past with potentialities from Edge in another place." Anna felt a wild hope flood through her, making her pulse skip a beat. She asked frantically, "James Cowell, are you involved?" Rex's amber eyes appeared to soften in your creation, with something like compassion. "James Cowell played a crucial role in the project's early phases. I was founded on work on protecting the DNA of endangered species, but he completed the project before Rex could." The distant sound of voices reverberated through the tunnels, closer this time, and with a hint of urgency that they were approaching. Rex nodded as Mayfield stated, "We need to move," with anxiety in his voice. "Yes," from Rippling again. "Although there is an alternative route that avoids the tunnels. Your brother found that the monster turned in the direction of the circle of pillars. The etchings on their surface started to glow intensely, as though in response to an unsaid order. The murmur in the air intensified to a fever pitch under the blue light, and the distance between the orbs. Anna's mind was spinning at the way the pillars appeared to shimmer and warp a gateway. The consequences. But where is the source? Rex said that the voices were increasing in the spot where I was created, and where the answers you're looking for are waiting. They were running out of time, and the sound of running footsteps was becoming closer. Mayfield's face was a mask of mixed emotions as he held Anna's arm. "I'm not sure what lies beyond, but this may be quite deadly." She looked into his eyes, feeling a mixture of terror and determination shown there. "Richard, we have no other option. And in addition to that," she added, grinning slightly, "aren't you intrigued?" Before he could answer, Rex released. The distortion between the pillars was starting to stabilize. Creating what? It appeared to be a portal into a different universe. A verdant forest, drenched in weird purplish light now. Rex murmured, "We have to leave immediately." Anna, take a big breath, moved on with Mayfield by her side, and as they got closer to the entrance, she sensed a ting sensation on the open ground. The air around them seemed to crackle with energy as they experienced a weird tingling sensation. As they arrived at the threshold, the chamber's door sprang open, revealing a swarm of guys in dark suits. In a moment of astonishment and resolve, one of them yelled and reached for his belt. But it was too otter, and Mayfield entered the gate late, Rex by their sides. For an instant that seemed to last into his future, the world around them vanished into a swirl of light and sensation. For all eternity, they were simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. And then there was a rush. Anna stumbled, her feet sliding slightly into the hot, humid air they were in. As her vision cleared, she was standing in a clearing with soft, loamy earth. The air was dense with tall trees that were unlike any she had ever seen. The sounds of foreign birds and the scent of strange flowers next to her. Mayfield mumbled, "Where are we?" as he looked around in awe and astonishment. "We applaud Rex's return in its smaller, more ambiguous form," stated that the intersection of the past and the future marks the beginning of a new era in Aswell. As they surveyed their surroundings, Anna's attention was captured by a distant building that seemed sleek. Above its entrance was a futuristic structure that appeared to emerge naturally from the jungle itself. Skipper was the name that won her over at the Cowell Institute for Evolution. Progress, her brother's legacy, appeared to be far more expansive. and more intricate than she ever would have thought. And as they headed for the building, Anna was aware that the answers she sought within its boundaries, but she was also aware that those responses might alter her perception of her brother regarding science and the jungle's inherent nature of life. As Anna Mayfield and Rex drew closer to the imposing environment of the council, the Caldwell Institute's structure seemed to defy traditional architecture, with its organic shapes and sleek lines. As they approached, the bins blended in perfectly with the surrounding forest, and Anna's pulse pounded with a mix of excitement and fear. This location, which bore her brother's name, held the key to her anxiety and expectation. But it was too plain to see that nothing could be more true than this place and Anna to solving the riddle that had held her attention for the previous 3 years. But what secrets would she find inside its walls? It's amazing how Mayfield whispered that his scientific interest was apparent in his voice. The way technology and nature are combined is unlike anything I've ever seen. As they got closer, Rex, who was padding silently next to them, appeared to become more animated. This is where it all started. The creature's voice was a melodic combination of sounds, where your brother's idea germinated and developed into something that exceeded his wife's expectations. As they arrived at the entrance, a panel next to the door became softly blue. An automated voice that sounded disturbingly familiar welcomed everyone to the Caldwell. Please give biometric identity to the Institute so that Anna can enter. She put her hand on the glowing panel, shivering a little, and nothing occurred for a time. The door opened with a gentle chime, revealing Anna Caldwell, the founder's sister, who was crying. Stung Anna's eyes, despite James having made sure she would have access to his work for so long. It was a place that had never been this pleasant. As they entered the building, they were greeted by a spacious atrium that served as a bittersweet reminder of their shared relationship, including an overwhelming number of holographic displays and odd pulsating plants that appear to be a candida. This amazing Mayfield-bred organic main part machine. His gaze flitting from marvel to marvel, the developments here Rex relocated to the public sphere decades or maybe centuries before. As it interfaced with the building systems, its form shimmered slightly in the center of the room. Dr. James Caldwell started with the straightforward objective of protecting Earth's declining biodiversity. But as his work developed, he discovered something much more significant. A method to not only save lives, but also help. As it changed, holographic pictures appeared all around them, demonstrating the development. Anna marveled at James's work as years of investigation were shown to her, eyes leading to the development of beings that could change and adapt in real time, such as Rex's numerous species' genetic legacies. Yet why did Anna ask, her voice filled with passion? Why did he vanish? And why did Rex's amber keep everything secret? His eyes met hers with a profound comprehension that felt unnaturally old as he recognized the extent of what he had found, the ability to change life itself, and in the wrong hands, it could have disastrous consequences. James emerged in his lab in a new hologram, looking older and more worn out than Anna remembered from his recorded voice. It's the phase of an intruder who should have been hidden away from the public, been huddled in the atrium. His face became visible in the foreground. If you're seeing this, Anna, it means you've arrived at last. I apologize for keeping the P private. I must have hurt you, but what we've accomplished here is more than any one individual. It's the next phase in evolution as a means of guaranteeing life survival in a universe that is changing. Anna reached out to touch the door before shutting it silently behind her and firing up the door. 5 seconds later, a crash landed on the landing and Rex's feet swung up, her fingers moving through the hologram in the picture of her brother James. "What have you done?" she gasped, as though in answer to her inquiry. Alarms abruptly blared over the building. Rex's body stiffened, its gaze darting to the entrance. They trailed behind us, and the creature's voice urged those who wanted to Mayfield hurried to a nearby console, his fingers flying over the holographic screen to manipulate this power for their own purposes. Now it appears that they have crossed the outer perimeter. We are running out of time, and Anna's thoughts are racing. I've learned so much thus far, but it all seemed to be about to disappear. What should we do? She questioned, glancing between Rex and Mayfield. Rex's figure shimmered. Expanding and becoming more powerful. We need to preserve James Caldwell's legacy. As if in response to Rex's statements, another hologram of James materialized, indicating that the work here is too crucial to end up in the wrong hands. If you're seeing this, Anna, it indicates that the Institute is in danger of failing. The hologram gestured, and a method to guarantee that our work stays safe until the world is prepared for it. When a concealed panel in the wall slid open, a complex gadget that pulsed with unearthly energy was revealed. James's ongoing recording of the evolutionary codex includes the total of our investigation, including the secret to Rex's special powers, which, when unleashed, will disperse our efforts throughout space and time, concealed inside the fundamental framework of evolution. Anna approached the gadget, her heart racing. But if we do that, all of this will be lost. But your legacy and labor will endure, Rex said quietly, preserved in anticipation of its rediscovery. When humanity is prepared to use such power sensibly, the sound of Tony's words spilled out of her. They were running out of time when blasts reverberated from further inside the building, and Mayfield turned to face Anna. Written with care and resolve, "It's up to you, Anna. This was your brother's life's work. Would you like to do that?" Anna closed her eyes as she considered James of the Wonders, had learned that the Institute's walls had the capacity for both miracles and disasters. When she said, "We activated the codex," and when she opened them again, her eyes were clear and determined. Rex nodded and gave a look of assurance that we save the future by conserving the past. Approval in its ever-evolving eyes. A prudent decision, but be aware that this is turning on the codex will have repercussions. And when this information spreads throughout time, the world you return to, could not be exactly the same as the one you left behind. Anna inhaled deeply before placing her hand against the tiny rubber dome. As her eyes became accustomed to the darkness, the evolving codex's surface felt warm and nearly lifelike beneath her fingers. "Touch, we'll deal with any adjustments together," she continued, glancing at Anna hit the button as the noises of intruders approached Mayfield and Rex. James's letter contained an activation sequence that caused the codex to pulse with strong light, flooding the room with light. Over the rising roar, Mayfield said, "A swirling vortex of energy is working." Rex's form started to glow and fade as the info spread. "Thank you, Anna." The creature's voice grew farther away as it spoke. "But you made sure that." When the energy reached a peak, Anna felt a tugging feeling, reminding her that life will find a way to transcend all time and space. The last thing she saw before the world vanished into light, like though reality itself was changing all around them, was the proud. Her brother's holographic face lit up with a smile, and then the Cowell Institute, Rex, and everyone else. The wonders and perils it held disappeared from Earth's surface, dispersed throughout the cosmic fabric of Anna blinking the world. Evolution waiting to be rediscovered. Slowly regaining her composure, she discovered that she was standing in the center of a crowded Chicago street. Beside her, Dr. Mayfield appeared similarly astounded by the skyline set against a bright blue sky. As though she hadn't used it before, she asked, her voice hoarse, confused, "Did it work? We've been gone a long time." Mayfield nodded slowly, his eyes sweeping their environmental conditions. "But something feels odd." Subtle modifications in the automobiles became noticeable as they observed their environment. Silently passing them seemed more efficient, driven by some invisible cleanliness. Energy. The folks passing by were dressed in almost futuristic attire, and many wore little gadgets behind their ears that buzzed softly, alerting us to the codex and breathing Rex. There would be adjustments as they headed to a neighboring news kiosk, with Anna's eyes floating over holographic headlines. Expanded as she read that a breakthrough in adaptive technology was prevented by the global climate problem. Millions are saved by agriculture, and scientists have made breakthroughs in interspecies communication, create a universal translator for animal languages, and achieve new levels of human lifespan. Now that Height's average lifetime is more than 120 years, Mayfield whistled softly. These developments are amazing, and it appears that the spread of the evolutionary codex has had a significant influence. Anna nodded as a wave of wonder and anxiety passed over her. But how much has changed, and at what cost? Even our pre-Mayfield selves were able to react when a familiar voice cried out from Anna across the street. They turned to find Carl Noak jogging in their direction. "Dr. Mayfield." Carl, Anna remarked with satisfaction, looking strangely unchanged amidst the subtle futurism of their surroundings. Rushing through her head, she replied, "Yesterday's conversation earlier at the party seemed to have been useless to me right now. What do you reply?" Noak gave them a questioning glance. "Naturally, I do recall that you both left the hospital a few days ago. Are you feeling okay?" Anna and Mayfield exchanged looks during the weird occurrence with the lion that has us scared ill. It appeared that while, at least from Noak's point of view, we're okay, Carl, even though the world had drastically changed and their immediate past had not changed. Mayfield stated cautiously, "I'm a little confused because it's been a busy few days." Gave me a sympathetic nod. "So I thought, look, why don't you both come? Someone has been waiting to see you at the hospital since they followed Noak through the oddly patterned pattern that turned into a unicorn squadron floating smoothly over the roadhead city. Someone has been waiting to see you at the hospital since they followed Noak LED at Elied. For them, and how much of their amazing journey they could share in the hospital once they got there, was real-time patient data was displayed on holographic displays, a marvel of modern medicine, and robots quietly moved around the hallways, helping human employees tap Noak LED. The doors slid open, revealing Anna's heart as they entered a secluded room on the upper floor. Almost stopped there, sitting upright in bed, appearing little older, but still very much alive, was her brother, James Caldwell. He smiled warmly and said, "Hello, little sister. Why do you think it's time?" We discussed the past and the future, while Anna hurried to give her a long embrace. Lost brother, she became aware that the evolutionary codex had been activated, and that their journey was far from over. Somewhere out there, motion changes that would affect the world in ways they were only starting to comprehend. The legacy of their amazing discovery was dispersed over space and time, waiting to be put back together. Anna and James' reunion was a flurry of feelings, including relief, confusion, excitement, and a little fear. Anna felt the years of isolation fading away as they clasped. But she could also feel the death of she. She pulled back to stare at her, asking, "How is this possible?" With a weight of unanswered questions bearing down on them. "We believed you were James after seeing the videos, brother." He smiled with a trace of his old hazy. In a sense, the playful gleam in his eyes had vanished, but the activation of the knowledge gathering, the more than just the environment we live in, the evolutionary codex rewrote Dr. Mayfield, who had been viewing the reunion with a mix of joy and sadness, was part of history itself. And scientific curiosity emerged. He thought about the dispersal of the ripple effect. Of sophisticated evolutionary knowledge throughout space and time must have sped up some findings and changed. James nodded in agreement with specific occurrences in this updated timeline regarding my absence. Was a thorough undercover operation to safeguard the COD's secrets, and I've been working behind the scenes, all directing the incorporation of our findings into society at this time. Anna's head swirled with the consequences. But if history has shifted, why does Carl recall us going missing only a few days ago? And why do we recall the previous timeline? The human mind is an amazing instrument, James provided an explanation to those who were closest to the Codex activation event. Preserve recollections of both timeframes. In a sense, it serves as a protection to make sure that details kept secrets. As they spoke, a gentle chime reminded them of the reality of what had transpired, came from a gadget on James's wrist, and as he looked at it, his face brightened. Since there are still people who want to harness the potential of accelerated evolution for their own ends, we don't have much time. For our own purposes, we must relocate to the location where Mayfield sparked his scientific interest. Well, what should we do next? James stood up and showed that he was not at all the ill patient they had at first. He grinned and added, "It's time you saw the new Caldwell Institute." James, as they were about to depart, Anna couldn't get rid of the nagging feeling she had because of what you had done. Reluctantly did the CX remove them from Rex. Rex was more than simply a construct, and Anna's brother's expression softened with his existence. They were, in many respects, the physical manifestation of the Codex itself, scattered throughout space and time, but not actually lost. Before he could continue, a little creature sprang from the shadows and made a familiar chirping sound. "Hello, old friend." The feline half of Avon is gleaming with hardly restrained energy. According to Pals Rex, our voyage appears to be far from ended, as its amber eyes sparkle with ancient wisdom. As Anna knelt to welcome their longtime friend, She was filled with enthusiasm and hope since the world had altered in ways that she was just starting to comprehend. Yet she returned Mayfield's scientific genius and Rex's otherworldly direction. She was confident that they were prepared to tackle any obstacles that awaited them together. And they ventured out into a realm that has been altered by evolution itself, a world where the lines between the past, present, and the voyage to the new Coldwell Institute was a revelation, and the future had become beautifully, terrifyingly fuzzy. In and of itself, as they traversed the altered Chicago terrain, Anna amazed at how well nature and technology structures blended together. Vehicles with surfaces covered in living air-purifying plants for breathing. We traveled on roadways that glistened with solar cells embedded in them. As she observed a flock of birds that appeared to glow with bioluminescent patterns, she muttered, "Wow. The Codex's dispersal." James nodded, his voice containing a note of pride, held the secret to comprehending the profound interconnection of all life. And it included more than simply genetic data. Knowledge started to permeate many academic disciplines, and as they got closer to the periphery, breakthroughs happened quickly. Of the city, a verdant, well-managed wilderness replaced the urban landscape in the separating a building from the woods. A stunning combination of natural design and cutting edge. James remarked, "We welcome technology," gesturing to the new cowwell. The Institute for Evolutionary Harmony appeared to be a living membrane that grew from the earth itself. As they entered, Anna and Mayfield gasped as they pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The interior was a huge, open area with odd, holographic displays. Mayfield questioned, hybridized plants and scientists of all species working side by side, pointing with disbelief to a sizable aquarium where a creature sporting a neural interface of some sort seemed to be in a thorough conversation with a human researcher. Ambassador Coral James affirmed that she is among our foremost authorities on the restoration of marine ecosystems. When they arrived at the institution, it became evident how much the Codex had changed everything. The hull wings were devoted to adaptive interspecies communication agriculture that can flourish in quickly changing climates. And medical Anna said, her brain spinning with the breakthroughs that almost seemed supernatural. Consequences, but there must also be difficulties, as you indicated. Still, those who would abuse this authority. James's face became grave. Although the spread of the Codex has resulted in significant progress, it has also given rise to new types of conflict. People who think that humans should dictate how other species evolve and shape them to suit our needs, as well as those who fear the modifications aimed at completely undoing the consequences of the Codex. Rex, who had been silently watching, then she said, "Oh, what can we do?" and asked James to lead them to a safe chamber at the center of the Institute, within a well-known apparatus pulsing with extraterrestrial energy. The Nexus is a scaled-down version of the original evolutionary codex. You outlined how it enables us to track the continuous impacts of the codex's spread and, if required, make minor changes. I clapped and closed my book. When I was done, the author told me the scientist was found in the back. I've completed. Mayfield's eyes glowed with scientific interest as he made adjustments to maintain the equilibrium. So you mean we can actually direct global evolution within certain bounds? James warned that the objective is harmony rather than persistently meeting the chord word of a crisis. In the face of rapid change, we want to provide every life the opportunity to adapt and flourish. As she got closer to the Nexus, she had an odd resonance, as though the gadget recognized her mental images. Real-time species adaptation to the complex web of life in dynamic ecosystems. Beautifully throbbing with newly discovered vitality, she breathed, and fearsome Rex approached her, its shape glimmering and hardly contained. "Energy, this is your legacy," Anna Caldwell. "In this world, the lines separating species in the past and the future are no longer distinct in a world of limitless potential as the burden of their duty descended upon them." With a grim expression on his face, James hurried to a nearby console as a sudden alarm went off across the Institute. He declared that a rogue group had obtained pieces of the Codex and was working to produce a localized ecological explosion in the Amazon jungle. Anna looked resolutely at Mayfield and Rex. Their amazing journey had brought them to this point, where they could influence the course of life. "What are we going to do?" she questioned. "Are you prepared to take on any challenges this brave?" James grinned, his eyes full of pride and enthusiasm, as he said, We go to the new world. Amazon, we maintain equilibrium and make sure that evolution continues to be a force for possibility. As they got ready for their next journey, Anna understood that there should be harmony rather than devastation, felt their codex activation had marked a new beginning rather than an end, and that they were now stewards of a new age in the history of Earth is responsible for directing the complex dance of life itself. The Amazon rainforest had long held the promise of a future full with wonders and dangers, was the place of wonder. But when James and Rex and Anna Mayfield came out of Baura, Gambia, after being transported into the lush undergrowth, they discovered a scene that was beyond their wildest expectations. Huge trees loomed over the sky, their trunks pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that resembled weird hybrid animals. Dancing with crawling rhinocorans flew over the canopy, creating a captivating fusion of birds, mammals, and insect. Mayfield's scientific mind raced to catch the evolutionary surge. Classify the marvels surrounding them? It has already started, James said grimly. A holographic display that he may view on his wrist device indicates that the rogue group has set up a base. A temporary version of the codex is being used close to the center of the forest to speed up evolution in a limited area. Without considering the larger environment, Rex's form shimmers and adjusts to the peculiar surroundings. Revealed such careless manipulation of life's code might have disastrous effects that extend well beyond this forest. Anna sensed a surge tenacity, which is why they arrived to safeguard the fragile equilibrium of life in order to guarantee that the strength of the Kaladia Codex was used appropriately. She inquired, "What's our plan?" James prepared for action by outlining their plan. Behind the shade of the thickets, they would approach the rogue base as they advanced farther into the forest, utilizing Rex's capacity for adaptation to conceal their existence once they're there. In order to stop the evolutionary surge from spreading, they would have to deactivate the improvised codex, uncontrollable as they traversed the altered rainforest, which Anna was astounded by the quick changes occurring all around them, as plants appeared to develop and alter before their very eyes. With their leaves changing, animals unlike anything she had ever seen, zipped between the hues and patterns to adjust to the shifting light. "It's beautiful," she said. Underbrush, there forms a dizzying blend of familiar and alien, attempting to touch a flower that appeared to be singing a gentle melody as it opened. But it's also frightening. How can we potentially exert influence over this Mayfield, who had been reading the advanced marketing material for months? Wondering if the rate of change is exponential, the handheld device shook his head. "If you don't stop this right away, the consequences may spread throughout the entire world as they get closer to the skeletons." "We're not alone," the rogue-based Rex cautioned as it abruptly stiffened its body and rippled with barely restrained energy. A low growl came from the forest's shadows, and a number of individuals appeared. Humans that had physical changes displayed indications of faster evolution. With at their center, a woman with sharp green eyes and skin stood, with enhanced physical abilities and heightened senses. "Look to glow with chlorophyll," she observed, welcoming Caldwell's. "We've been waiting for you, James." As her voice carried another earthly resonance, he moved forward, his visage a mask of hydrithena. "Elena Volov, I assume that your experiments are hazardous." Elena grinned, and a predatory gleam in her eye as she said, "You're endangering the entire planet's ecosystem. The next phase of evolution will see humanity break free from the sluggish process of natural selection, become gods, molding life to suit our desires. But that's not how it operates," Anna interrupted her powerful voice. "Evolution isn't about domination or control. It's discussing harmony and finding balance in the larger web of life." Elena's looked at Anna with a curious expression on her face. "The younger Cowell, the person who first triggered the codex, told me, don't you feel, with the ability and capability to temporarily change the world as we see fit." Anna felt the draw of that temptation, the power to change life and use a wave of her hand to solve the world's ills. However, she suddenly recalled Rex from the wonders they had witnessed and the delicate equilibrium that kept the planet whole. "What you're doing here isn't evolution, it's chaos," she remarked forcefully, adding that power without wisdom is nothing but destruction. Elena's face hardened. "And then you abandon us. We won't let you block humanity's next step." With a motion from Elena, Ascension's evolved followers rushed forward. The surrounding forest appeared to come to life, with plants and animals reacting to the elevated feelings and rushing evolutionary energies. The conflict that ensued was unlike any other in history. Rex used weapons, but he also used the energies of life itself to change his shape. Mayfield quickly countered Elena's followers' improved skills by applying his scientific expertise to forecast the perpetual clash in Jasma lands. James used the Codex's higher wisdom to counteract the evolutionary energy surges and stabilize Anna, found herself at the center of the wild changes that were sweeping through the woodland as she ducked around, grasping shattering life force. She felt a strong connection to the throbbing life force surrounding her as she jumped over, quickly changing terrain and through vines. She realized then that her job was to steer evolution to serve as a link between the old and the new, not to control it. With a sudden inspiration, she reached out to the temporary codex in the middle of Elena's structure. She tried to harmonize with it rather than try to shut it down, in order to channel its strength into a more balanced kind of faster evolution. The impact was instantaneous and stunning. With the frantic rushes of plants and animals that had been distorted by unchecked evolution, started to find new homes, once energy stabilized, durable forms, even though Elena and her supporters sensed that they had improved. As the dust settled, Elena gazed at the bodies, settling into a more harmonious state. "How did you accomplish that?" Anna grinned as she looked at her with astonishment and defeat. Recognizing that we are not intended to control evolution, and experiencing the pulse of life coursing through her, the Codex is a key to comprehending our role in the great dance of domination, not an instrument for domination. Setting the papers down, she pulled the white editions closer, bracing herself when something was to come from the code. Life following the conflict, while efforts are being made to stabilize the affected area. As incorporate the modifications into the larger ecosystem, Anna came to the realization that their journey was still far from being finished with the activation, and the Mangalore's dive of the Codex had initiated modifications that would reverberate throughout space and time for future generations. But now, with the knowledge and relationships they had developed, they were prepared to take on those challenges as guardians of gravity. Through evolution, they would strive to guarantee that the amazing force of life itself would be utilized for purposes other than dominance. But nothing was prepared, including the final scene, to reveal the parts that could ultimately be utilized for purposes other than dominance. Anna, there was harmony as the sun set over the changed Amazon, illuminating the sky with hues never before seen on Earth. Observed her friends, including her brother James, the intelligent doctor, Mayfield, the mysterious Rex, and even the now humiliated Elena was aware that they will lead all life on Earth and humanity together into a future full of limitless potential and adventure. The trip that started when an enigmatic lion entered a Chicago establishment was now far larger than ever. They had become the shepherds of a new age in Earth's history, one in which the limits of Earth potential were becoming the past and the future had grown fluid in an era of difficulties, of separation and disaster. As they were ready to head back to the Caldwell Institute, Anna experienced a profound sense of wonder and hope. Purposefully, the journey was only getting started, and she was prepared to confront any dangers and marvels the advanced world may present.